The first topic I want to go over tonight, or the first thing we're going to go over tonight, because we want to highlight our friends and our homies here on the show. We're going to highlight our good friend Sean. He is an artist. He is going currently to Otis, which is a art school here on the West Coast. We're going to look at some of his art.
Much
So
obliged.
first off, I want to look at this piece. We're looking off straight off Instagram, so we'll see how well this goes. But boom, here's the first piece I want to talk about, Sean. This beautiful piece with the fountain woman out against
Word.
the yellow.
Word.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that right now?
Yeah, man. So this was a piece that I had to do for one of my art classes.
Which, a disclaimer, most of these pieces Sean will have done for an art class right now.
Yeah, most of them are done for my art class. That one in particular was an interesting one, because most of my pieces are done fairly last minute, and what makes this one an interesting one was when I got into it, I started doing the original layers in That's actually hard kind of talking about my art. As an artist, you kind of have to do a base layer. And I did the base layer with some toilet paper. And I was kind of just rubbing the toilet paper onto the canvas until I realized I was actually creating a
Full
piece.
transparency. I was gonna be like, well, why don't you talk about what inspired you about the piece? But then I'm like, no, this toilet paper bit is way more interesting.
Yeah.
Like I've helped them out with like art projects before, and then it's just like the real art is like setting up how you're gonna do
Sean's art, I think, is like a perfect embodiment of it's not the destination, it's the journey.
Yeah, it's more like, you know how they say like science is more like accidents, and it's more of like, it's not really, it's like I wasn't aiming to do that, I just happened to notice this as I was trying to do some other shit.
Yeah, I mean, what was really funny about actually most of the pieces I think we're going to see here today is they're very non-conventional. None of the pieces were done in a regular painterly fashion. All of them have done in very non-conventional mediums. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there's like, I do love your painting or like sculpture with the sponge and the mud. That is like,
Well, yeah. If we go back to the waterfall one though, so I realized while working on the base layer that the painting was working really well with just using this toilet paper, and so I kind of just rubbed the toilet paper in, and I mixed different tones.
What was the way that you actually like used the toilet paper? Like, did you use the toilet paper like in a paintbrush fashion, or was it like that's how you got the texture on the hair?
I had a whole roll of toilet paper, and I kind of just spun it up, and I would dip it in different tones of paint, and I'd kind of use those tones to paint it in. And I thought it worked really well because since I was dealing with water, there was kind of points where I was kind of like using the toilet paper to take away the paint, so there's this reductive element to it. And when it came to the hair, I actually did use the toilet paper as kind of like a dabbing motion to kind of get this waterfall effect, and it was really just working with different tones. One of the funny things was in my class telling people that I had used toilet paper to make this.
Well, I'm sitting here like I didn't know that you'd shown us this piece before, and I did not know that you used toilet paper.
Yeah,
and I'm sitting here like, this is during COVID pandemic,
and I'm like,
so the
what?
idea of like hearing someone like, yeah, I use toilet paper for art. It's like that just sounds so pandemic era.
That's really funny.
Whoa.
And like I know that was probably nowhere near your intention.
Nah.
But
So I bought all the toilet
think about
paper
it
to
like
use this. I'm actually the reason why we had a toilet paper shortage just to make this painting. I'm sorry, guys, if you weren't able to wipe your asses. It was for this painting.
Okay. What kind of ply was it? Because if it wasn't,
It was good. It was good.
oh, you used good toilet paper.
Yeah.
You use like hardcore. Did you like Charmin 2
Like
ply?
you didn't use 1 ply, like
like
Have you guys
Charm.
tried to paint?
no. But I'm just saying, this is you use the
He
good
went
toilet-
that full on Charmin extra.
Yeah,
Yeah, extra ply, like double roll. I used at least 3 rolls.
I know. Yeah, I don't think I ever
like,
bought
per section.
I don't buy 1 ply, but I don't think I ever bought Charmin that much ply.
Was this
Yeah.
you?
That's very.
Or is that
Yes.
something-
No. Everything on there is me.
Okay.
No, but it was actually really funny during the critique because, again, I wasn't even going to mention the fact that I had used toilet paper because during a critique, you kind of want to keep everything relevant. And there was a whole story.
I feel like the toilet paper was very relevant.
Not so the actual story, though. So the story behind that painting was this idea of, it was kind of like the beginning of the universe. And in the beginning, you had the epitome of water just aimlessly like wandering the universe, and then her hair is waterfall, and eventually she runs into the epitome of passion, and passion is like a born in flame, and they end up touching each other, and the heat touching the water turns her to steam.
Steamy.
Yeah, it turns her to steam, which is the birth of wisdom. And so, like, there was this whole, like, mythological story to it. And it wasn't until after that where I was just like, I wasn't going to say anything, but this painting was made of toilet paper. Which one of the students...
Killed the vibe.
Well, no, it was actually... I mean, it added to the vibe. It was deeply hysterical.
Like, if you didn't mention toilet paper, it would have been really sexy.
It was intense.
Yeah.
Because I had this whole thing written out for it. But it was really funny because one of the students mentioned, like, oh, next time we go to class, we're going to need a toilet paper demo. We're gonna need a demonstration.
So they were still intrigued. So
they loved it.
So it's still sexy.
No, yeah, it was, I mean, the painting's hot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a beautiful painting.
Thank you. I appreciate
You'll
it.
have to rewind it because we're actually going to move on to his next painting.
The description was sexy.
His next
what
featured
you
painting.
said, it was very.
Or this isn't a painting, actually. This is rather a piece, a physical piece. Let's check it out. Boom. You want to tell us about this one, Sean?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one because this was for a photography class where we had to make basically an installation of something that wasn't going to last. And my idea was kind of making artwork that was inside of a museum that was basically being photographed of like these silhouettes watching the piece. So we have a silhouette of a man watching this art installation. And it's actually a physical photo. So this piece that we're looking at isn't actually like an installation, but it's actually just a photo if we're looking at it. So if you're looking at it, it's really just like a 8x12 photo.
Okay, but it looks like someone's in an art gallery, like looking at this.
That was the idea.
Yeah, I get it.
Is it? I mean, again, do you maybe want to even like talk about your art style itself? Because I think you're very much. I don't want to say you're very much ahead of your time as an artist, or very much like creating, new art, because you very much have talked about the way you're inspired by older artists of the time and the way they deconstructed art. And do you maybe want to talk about the way that we'll go into your modern pieces, and we'll talk about the way that you've deconstructed art.
Thinks outside the box.
That way, because again, you've talked about your influence with Warhol. I'm a big Warhol fan. I'm a big David Bowie fan. He was friends with Warhol. He had a song, Andy Warhol, one of my favorite David Bowie songs. So let's go into some of your final stuff. This was a series that you did.
Yeah, I mean, it was really funny.
This is the first one you did, which is the mop with the mud.
Yeah, I got a significant amount of hate for this because I'm basically in a painting class, and I had told my professor, he was like, "Well, what do you want to do this semester?" And I was like, "Dude, like, I don't like to paint. I don't want to paint. I'm in a painting class." And he was like, "Sure. I mean, let's run on that." and I shot him 3 ideas. One of the ideas was to do a series of white paintings, which he actually was very supportive of, and he turned me on to this one specific artist, like Robert Ryman, I think his name was, and he was a custodian at this art gallery in New York, and he was a custodian there for like 30 years. And there got to be a time where in that time where he was actually just making these paintings using just white paint, and it was kind of like he would do these underpaintings and then he would just paint the canvas white, so you kind of see the background of the painting, but the painting was just white. And he
Was it kind of like in that like Daredevil Rabbit in the Snowstorm kind of vein? Like, did you do you know what I'm
yeah, no,
talking
I know,
about?
exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about, and it's kind of in that spirit, but entirely different. He really went far with it in this idea where he was adding like textures, and he gave like some sculptural aspects to it. So he made this significant amount of just like
Promote your beer on this channel.
he made these a significant amount of just white paintings, and that was kind of just reassurance that my teacher was giving me to this idea of like, well, if you want to do white paintings, like it's been done before and I support it. Because my idea for a white painting was I would have a canvas that would be entirely painted white, but the title would be something like Deer in the Headlights or Staring at the Sun, because it's like these peripheral, these visual ideas where when you're looking at something and you can't see anything, but this like blinding light.
Right.
And so that was kind of the idea for that painting, and that was the first idea. And the second idea was, I guess it was more of the sculptural aspects that we see now, where I told him, well, hey, I think it'd be interesting to like paint with mud. I think it'd be interesting to have like this idea where like something that is supposed to clean up the mess makes the mess. So kind of this idea like we use a sponge to like clean up dirty spaces.
Yeah.
But what happens if the sponge ends up making a dirty space? And he really vibed with that idea, and I appreciated that a
Yeah.
lot. And so the third idea was just like, well, I can just paint on intuition.
There it is.
And he vibed with all of those ideas, but the idea that I ended up sticking with was this idea of the things that are made to create the mess ends up making the mess. And that's how we ended up with this, where I was like, you know what, I want to have a piece where it's all in one whole stroke, where I ended up taking a sponge, I mixed it with some medium, and I just applied it to this canvas. And I told them like I wanted to have these attributes actually on the canvas to know that it made the mark, which is why we have this piece where like the sponge is like sticking to the canvas, saying like, hey.
It's like it's a sculpture on in a way.
Yeah, so it did have like these sculpture aspects to it. It was not received very well. A lot of the students were saying like, "Well, how are these paintings? We're in a painting
Okay,
class."
I don't want to be an ass, but I'm like producing the shit out of this episode right now.
No, you're doing clean. You're doing clean. It's looking good. And so that's kind of where those pieces derived from, and they've kind of gone further than even this idea of like what is supposed to make the mess. No, what is supposed to like clean up the mess makes the mess, which is why we have like the two last pieces, where I just started playing with this idea because like Warhol was very much about like monetizing art. It was just like this idea of art for art's sake. And just realizing that, you know, if you want to be part of the culture, you're going to add the culture into it. And there was this part of me that was just so disgusted about how, you know, learning art kind of like killed the drive. And it's like, you know, you hold art to this high standard, and the only people buying art are like these rich, pretentious people. And a part of me was just like, well,
I see, and I just to cut you off real quick, and I see where you're at, where they don't particularly understand art; they just appreciate it.
it's not even just appreciated. I think it's just this them wanting to feel like they're part of a culture, and that's kind of something that Warhol was able to give them with the soup cans. The idea of the soup cans was just like the soup cans were something that was very
Again, it was the symbol of the poor man, and it was something that when
it was almost like rich people owning the poor people's culture.
well, not even the poor people, but just the essence of that culture
Yeah,
and
exactly.
what it meant to like just kind of be
And-
what it is to be the everyman.
And that's one take on it, and I totally like understand that take, and I'm not gonna say I entirely agree with that take. Um, it is definitely one perspective on it, but I was kind of just wanting to say like fuck this idea of you know people like holding art to such as high esteem. So when it came to my last two pieces, like there's like a comedy to it. There's kind of a
It
comedy
is.
to yeah, I want like there's something
It's kind of fuck you to the rest of the class. It's like why are you guys taking it like this serious, making it like this big of a deal when you could literally just like you said, like you're thinking outside the box, and it's like you said, I'm planning to do like a whole lot of nothing, and it's like it's not like you're not doing anything, but it's like. You just like it's like the concept to it is doesn't seem like there's that much thought to it, but it's still
yeah, so there was
it's
a lot
really
of
outside the
people
box. Like it's
that
like
yeah, there absolutely
I'm
it was
pretty sure.
definitely
Yeah,
outside the
it's
box.
definitely like I'm guaranteed like a lot of students were like frustrated about what you did.
Well, one of the things that made him so frustrated is you have a classroom full of painters who are honestly dedicated to their craft and painting things
Yeah.
that are
The-
are meaningful to them,
Mhm.
and they're spending hours on these paintings, and I literally just had an idea, and it was just a concept,
Yeah.
and I ran with that idea slash concept. And honestly, the funny thing is, it's not like I wasn't painting during the whole time. I
Yeah.
think one thing that made people so frustrated was the fact that I would come into class with a bunch of spray cans, and I spent most of the time actually just going outside and spray painting because the graffiti room is literally right next door.
Yeah.
So you would have me just in this 6 hour class going outside and just spray painting while everyone else is working on their pieces because my pieces were so simple, but the idea was about, it can be like, it's very comedic, but at the same time you can like think about like the working class because every single thing about my piece has to do with like laborers.
Yeah. Did you make the canvas yourself?
All the canvases were made by me.
Yeah, well, like, see, so you put in the work. It's not like you just like straight up just bought a canvas and just like sprayed like a sponge on it. You did the whole set. It's like people alone.
And I full on remember you telling me the struggle that you had just to make a lot of the canvases. That
Yeah.
I had to go to the store like multiple times
It's
because they weren't the right measurements, they weren't the right materials.
And to be honest, like I'm not gonna say like I got to give the devil their due because like everyone at the school had worked really hard on their paintings.
Yeah.
Like I'd say at least like 85% of them, like they had ideas and they executed them so well. They were mad because my idea was so simple. And honestly, when you look at the final product, again, you look at the squeegee one, you look at the missing canvas one, both of those paintings, like they looked at them like these aren't even paintings. Like you didn't do any work for them. And I got a lot of trash for that. Especially during the critiques, like even when I explained myself very, very fluidly, it was very much like, I just don't see these as paintings. And I respect that idea. And you know what? I didn't actually come into that class. Like I told my teacher, I don't like painting. I'm not here to paint. And you know what? He supported me. So the funny thing about all these pieces is the fact that I had the teacher backing me up.
Exactly.
Well, I think a lot of things is you were comfortable in your creativity in that level.
Yeah.
And again, there's also you're an older student. You're in your late 20s. A lot of these students were in their late teens, early 20s, and they had this, again, like you said, they had a passion for this, and you're someone that had already gone through different levels of passion for art, and you already kind of had an idea of like where you wanted to see your artistry go,
Yeah,
and they were still developing their artistry.
no, definitely. And but what actually is gnarly is there is this one artist who outblew everybody because her paintings are just so high level. It's almost questionable, like, why are you even going to the school? Because you already have the gift, you already have the talent. It almost doesn't make sense. I think from that standpoint, like, her criticisms would make sense, and I could see why she doesn't like it, why she would have animosity to my pieces, because it's like, well, you're already such a talented artist, you know, you're obviously going to look at my pieces like, well, this guy just isn't trying. But again, I think if you're saying I'm not trying, then you're missing the idea. And there is a very comical part of this.
Yeah,
And
exactly. It's super funny. Like the more I think about it, it's like, wow, how much people are like hating on you for like it's. I don't know. I don't understand. Like your
and
teacher's
another
backing you up and just saying like, oh yeah, and I'm pretty sure like your teacher loves your work.
so not only that, but it was really funny because again, I'd spend most of the time either before, during, even after class spray painting, and the teacher would just come out and be like, hey, well, hey, like, I really like what you're doing. Why don't you put this on a canvas? And me as a graffiti artist, very much was just like, well, it doesn't belong on a canvas.
Yeah.
You
Come
know,
on,
like that's not what I grew up.
that wouldn't be graffiti if it was on it. Like, yeah.
Exactly. So again, it was this really funny thing that he even supported like the graffiti art, and he
Yeah.
loved what I was doing outside, and the fact that he even wanted me to bring that inside. But there was a lot of just there's a lot of animosity to me still painting, but coming up with something that wasn't actually what they would consider a painting. When they obviously knew that I could.
Like if it's not a painting, it could still be like a sculpture or something. It's still art at the end of the day. Like
Yeah, I like to think of it's a mix of both. I mean, a lot of art school is having this question, like, what a painting even is.
yeah, it's it's like you're thinking outside the box. So it's
Yeah.
but I like what you're as graffiti wise, like what you're
Been building.
what you yeah, it could be trademarked and it could be something. That's why yeah, like the
Oh,
way
thanks,
you
dude.
spell fuck, I guess it's fuck.
Yeah, it's fuck.
It's fuck, but it looks like fook.
Could be fook.
It could be fook, but
I'm okay with that, yeah.
the way it looks, it could definitely be like a getting away with. It could be like on T-shirts. It could be on like all this other stuff.
Yeah, and again, I think with the graffiti, it's really funny because I've definitely come a long way since like my first day from my last day. Again, that was something that I had
And that's
posted.
just it. I think graffiti is something you hold to you because it's something that really sticks to like your kind of. I don't want to say, I don't want to call it to like street, but I mean, I don't like. I feel weird calling it working class origins, but it's. I mean, you.
Graffiti does something for me that is I like to say it's almost the truest form of art because as an artist, we're here to create. And usually we kind of just create to create. Like, it doesn't even necessarily have to be something like for us, but it's something that we do. So when it comes to graffiti, like, we're getting our name out and we're making something, and we're not even making something to last. Like, most graffiti artists know when we put up something, well, someone's going to put something up over it.
Yeah.
And that idea of like finality and the fact that it's going to end, it really makes me feel like it's the truest form of art because it relates more to the human experience. Like, people aren't going to live forever. Like, why should my art live forever?